In this video, I'm going to discuss 6 notifications that people have ignored, causing them to stay where they are, remain in transition. And ignoring number 5 has cost them living their best life. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Define Your DNA channel, where we dive into God. We neutralize those negative beliefs that's trying to drive you stir crazy, but that's not your portion. And we activate power and purpose. My name is Coach Miriam. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a Christian transformational life coach. All that means is I care about every aspect of your life, beginning with your mindset, because if you can change your mind, you can change your life, your finances, your relationships, your career, your purpose, your destiny. So I help women heal from the pain of their past so they can operate in power and in purpose. And perhaps you are here because you are experiencing a forced life adjustment. Life is lifing. And I get it. I understand, because when there is a big disruption, there are big emotions. And sometimes we don't know how to even deal with those big emotions. Number one, I just want to say, I see you. I see you, boo. And I just want to encourage you to take a deep breath. Like, seriously, inhale, hold it, and exhale. Because that is instantaneous self-care. Science shows that when you're experiencing stress, but you take a deep breath, your body can't do both at the same time. So you can give yourself some self-care right now and just pause. I came to encourage you today. And what I like about the word encourage is when you break it up, it says inside of you, there is courage. I came to speak to the courageous person on the inside of you today that is aligning with the voice of victory, because you are victorious. No matter what is happening to you, God wants to make something happen through you. And sometimes we're rooted in what's happening, that we feel ruined by what is happening, but you are just waiting on a new revelation on what you can actually make happen in spite of what's happening. What if I asked you the question, what if life is happening for you and not against you? Maybe you experienced job loss, or you were recently laid off, or somebody laid you off by leaving you. No matter what is happening, this is not the end of your story. This is just a comma. And you can actually have a new beginning. Perhaps you were actually burdened in that situation. So there is an opportunity if only you see it, versus just seeing the opposition. I just want to tell you a quick story about my life when I was living in Georgia, and I just got married, young and happy and ready to just explore what that was going to be like. And a part of that was being in the military. My husband was in the military. In some way, I joined as a military spouse. And you know, with military assignments, there is constant adjustment, because one assignment ends in one state, it can begin in another. And I remember thinking I was going to live in Georgia all my life. I had a limited perspective until there was a forced life adjustment. And I began to interview for jobs in Massachusetts. I was already working for DFACS, the Division of Family and Children's Services in Georgia, where that's like boot camp for social workers. Okay. That's what I had. You know, I was working in the capacity of making sure children were safe, that families were supported. And there was a high turnover rate with that, because many of the cases that we were called to, there was crisis. You know, there was, huge disruption in the children's lives, that sometimes you have to remove kids and, to make sure that they were safe. They were at-risk children. Y'all, that job was draining. And I had been programmed, of course, and prepared in some way to know that what I was going into was going to take a lot out of me because of the constant crisis. And it wasn't until I got married that I was stepping into something new that caused me to even leave what was old, which is interesting. So just hang on to that. It's usually a life event or something that happens that can lead us to leave because we are usually more willing to stay in a place that is familiar, that we end up staying in our comfort zone, even though it can come at a cost of staying there. It can be toxic even, but we may stay there simply because of the level of security that we have in a situation that is familiar. I know what I'm going to make. I know what to expect, but it comes with a cost. And it was definitely costing sleep at times, a lot of emotional distress, reading about what I was about to get into, what I was about to see, interviews with children where stuff was happening, y'all. It was tough. It was tough work. You had to have tough skin. If this resonates so far and you are someone that no longer wants to dim their light and normalize remaining in your place of comfort, but you want to listen to the conviction of greatness on the inside of you, I invite you to join the Unleash Your Power and Purpose Masterclass. Here you will overcome barriers, release burdens, and become who God has called you to be. Y'all, the greatest investment you can ever make is in your personal growth. Why? Because that mindset is keeping you and costing you more than the investment that will cultivate you more, that is connected to the conviction where you're meant to do more and make great things happen. I invite you to invest in where you are going. The link is below. And nevertheless, I began to interview and I got a job, and it was going to be doing something I had never done before. It was going to be a discharge planner in a nursing home. And I was going to get paid twice as much. And I'm like, yes, God is opening up a new door for me. This is a new beginning. They're going to train me because it's something I've never done before. Also, I hadn't had the clinical license yet. So they were going to invest in me, right? It's so important to invest in yourself, especially if you want to grow. You don't want to stay where you are. What are you doing to get to another place? So I went there, we moved there. Everything was going quite well, but that work was working me out. And these individuals that were coming into that nursing home for a short-term stay, is what we call it, had a medical event in their lives, and they were coming to be stabilized. So I was a part of that stabilization process to make sure that they were prepared to go home, not in an at-risk situation. We want to make sure that their departure from where they were at the nursing home was going to be safe and satisfactory, to not just go right back to the hospital again and repeat the cycle. And this could be stressful because sometimes people did not want to go home yet, but their insurance said it's time. It was a forced life adjustment. Sometimes people did not return to their previous baseline and they actually needed more support. This is just, they had to adjust to that mentally, emotionally, and physically. They needed to consider hiring more support that their insurance wasn't going to pay for. Some folks had the resources to do that, and some people did not. So this could be very stressful because a part of my responsibility is making sure that people had what they needed. And it felt like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. And let me tell you, I'm not a magician, okay? I am not God. Y'all, it was a stressful job. It had every job or aspect of what we're doing, projects can come with a certain level of stress. And again, I also had normalized that. I was programmed to endure, to persevere, and this place was investing in me. So I would stay, and I was staying there. It was new, right? I was just trying to acclimate and hoping that things would get better as well. But it was really just the culture of that work, at least for that place. Okay. I remember Fridays being the dumping days for hospitals. As bad as that term may sound, they were pushing patients out, and then our nursing home administrator was like welcoming them in because they had a quota to fill. So sometimes it would feel like it was just, trying to get people in the door, no matter how high that caseload was. And no matter how hard it was to keep up with the work, because the work was working me out. And needless to say, I was also pregnant at the time. Just got married, pregnant 2 months later. So I'm doing all this work. My belly is growing and the work is stressful. But again, I'm like, well, this is just a part of it. And finally, I come to the place where baby's like, I'm coming out, right? I go on maternity leave. My boss is like, when are you coming back? I haven't even left yet, right? But I go and do my 8 weeks, and whatever money I had saved up was gone, right? And so it was just like, okay, time to go back. Everybody's welcoming me back and happy for me to be there. I'm feeling some type of way because I would have liked to have stayed home much longer than I did, but it was what it was, is what I told myself. And finances were financing me, okay? And she had to end up going to daycare so that I could do work. And let me tell you, I got another reality check there, because as we were putting her in daycare and months are going by, I noticed that I was using my credit card more and more and more. So now the cost of living is costing me, is really costing me more than what it was before. This was a forced life adjustment where I had to really analyze, should I stay here? And I remember thinking, wait, not only did they invested in me, shouldn't I just be loyal to them and try to see if I can make this work? Which is interesting, because a part of my comfort zone was a survival mentality. So that survivalist mentality and the programming that I was used to essentially was telling me that maybe I was even doing something wrong by thinking that I needed to leave. So I ended up staying until I connected with the right voice. And that voice was somebody that told me, what if you just do some market research and see what you're worth? And that's not the language that we necessarily use today, especially when all our lives we've been trying to see what we're worth and all of that. But essentially what that person was saying is, go and see what else you can get paid for that position, okay? Especially if you're not making what you need to make and the cost of living is costing you more, that you're using your credit card, just go see. So that's what I did. I interviewed, and the first place was actually going to pay me 30 grand more than what I was making, y'all. 30 grand more. But it was going to be even more stress. I was going to have to commute into Boston. And if you know about that commute, you're paying a lot of money just to park. You're paying a lot of money in, not just in gas, depending on where you are, I would have been, but to park, right? You're traveling on the highway. So yes, you're also using more gas, fuel, all of that. And they offered me that. I said yes to it because I'm used to stress. I'm used to enduring. And I'm like, oh, it's more money, not necessarily thinking of the cost. However, they ended up rescinding the offer. But let me tell you that man's rejection is God's redirection. It is God's protection. And I was being called by recruiters all the time, but now I'm actually speaking to them because they have a thing. Sometimes recruiters will call you, even though they know, you're there at their job and they're doing their job, trying to get you to maybe relocate to another one that, could be a better option for you. So now I'm actually engaging them, and I came across, or an opportunity came to me because I was open. At this point now I'm open. First I was closed, limited beliefs. Now I'm open to what else is out there for me. And this was going to be at a place, a continuum care retirement community, where I was going to be working in the nursing home part of it. But it was going to be half the work, y'all. Half the work and 15 grand more than what I was being paid. And that was mind-boggling to me. Like, how could I be doing half the work and be making more money? And I began to have some imposter syndrome and actually even some fear that was saying, well, maybe you're doing something bad by even trying to leave. Look at what they did for you. But then when you think about it, y'all, when you're hired for a job, they're supposed to train you. Like, that's just what comes with the territory. So all of these beliefs were trying to convince me out of a deeper conviction of, what about your family? What about your emotional well-being? What about your mental health? There is a person of comfort in you. There's also a person of conviction in you. And I want to challenge you and ask you right now, what is showing up in your life? What person are you listening to? So I really began to grapple with this, but I still interviewed. I was looking into the benefits. I'm like, I'm not going to lean into fear. I'm really going to lean into a different focus on what I could have versus what I'm trying to keep here. Meanwhile, I'm losing a lot, actually. And maybe that is something that you're faced with. Either it was forced and you feel a sense of loss, or you're somewhere and it's costing you by staying there, by staying within your comfort zone. That I ended up deciding I'm going to give a letter of resignation. Well, let me tell you, that supervisor, that administrator, my boss put up a fight. And she gave some threats and was like, you know what? It's a small world. We invested in you. We did this for you. She tried to convince me to stay and say that they were going to pay me more, but also tried to convince me to take $7,000 less than what the new place was going to pay me. Now, let's make that make sense. Seriously. Because the reason I was leaving was actually financial, which is interesting. It wasn't the burnout. It wasn't because of the stress. It wasn't because of the high caseload, but it was a forced life adjustment because within my place of comfort, remember, I normalized all of those things. So even when I told her, hey, it is financial, she told me, no, it's not. I'm like, so you're going to tell me more than what I know about myself? And then try to convince me to take less than what this new job is going to pay me? Like if there isn't even more double confirmation that you need to listen to your conviction versus what somebody's trying to convince you out of, I don't know what will. So I gave my resignation, y'all, and I decided to leave behind the old and embrace the new. But let me tell you, even though there was all that confirmation, it didn't mean that the new wasn't scary. It didn't mean that the new didn't freak me out. It didn't mean that the new didn't have some imposter syndrome that was inside of me. I also didn't see a lot of people that looked like me in the leadership position that I was in. So there's all these negative beliefs that try to creep in or stay within me. But y'all, I went there and I excelled. So I realized that that previous place was refining me for the position that God wanted to take me into. Let me just tell you that where you have been, maybe it was a place of comfort. Maybe it was costing you and you find yourself actually using credit cards. You're in survival mode. You don't even like that work. There's a study that shows that Mondays are the most miserable days where people are going back to work. But why are we normalizing misery? Why are we staying in places that we don't even like and we're not even feeling fulfilled in? And there is a midlife crisis for a reason, because you desire something meaningful. You actually desired to be fulfilled in your work, that your work isn't working you. And you're not working for money, but money is actually working for you because you are aligned with your purpose. So I want to ask you today, what is your conviction? And where is the place that your conviction is trying to take you, that your place of comfort is trying to keep you out of? There is a new beginning ahead of you if only you will allow yourself to see beyond what you currently see right now. If we are not changing, we are choosing, but you can choose differently. I challenge you today to focus on what is in your control versus what's not. Maybe there are some dreams you have. There are business ideas that you have. What if this is an opportunity for you to tap in and create a vision where your dreams come alive? It takes courage to change. It takes courage to embrace the new. But you, my friend, are a courageous person. And the point of power is always in the present moment. It is so important for you to connect with the right people. So I invite you to join the Courageous Christian Women Facebook group, where you're connected with like-minded people who are going to support and celebrate your cultivation. We want to connect with people who welcome a growth mindset. It's your time, y'all. The link to join is below. Take care and be blessed.